Hey everyone, welcome back to Bible Verse Breakdown. In this video, the verse that I'm going to be breaking down is Hebrews chapter 10 verse 31, which reads, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." So why is it exactly a fearful or terrible or dangerous or undesirable thing to fall into the hands of the living God? To fall into the hands of here means like to offend or to be punished by God Almighty. So why is that such a terrible thing, as the book of Hebrews is saying? Well, the basic reason is because offending God is a little bit different from offending a human being. When you offend a human being or maybe the government, like maybe committing a crime, for example, stealing or whatever, there is the possibility that you can escape. You can either wait someone out until they either forget about you, or maybe they're not alive anymore, or they are unable to do harm to you or something, right? There are always ways of being clever and escaping harm. But the thing is, God is the owner of the entire universe, right? And he is the one who created us. If you read Psalms chapter 100 verse 3 and Acts chapter 17 verses 24 and 25 and Exodus chapter 19 verse 5, where God said, "All the earth is mine." So when you offend him or when you do something that does not please him, then there isn't really anywhere to run, because wherever you go, you are still in his space, and you as a human being, we as human beings, are his property, right? If you read Amos chapter 9 verses 2 to 4, you see God using Amos the prophet to say that if you descend to hell or you climb to heaven, which are not physical things, but like, for example, no matter how much wealth you gain, security you build, no matter how many cars you go with on a convoy or anything like that, you are not protected from the judgment of God. You cannot bail yourself or bail someone else out of the judgment of God. And if you read Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 39, God himself said, "See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand." We see this in 2 Chronicles chapter 24, when King Joash had committed a very grievous sin. Someone who had helped him become a very good king before God, helped him to do a lot of righteous things. He suddenly turned against him, killed his son who was a prophet, trying to help King Joash come out of his sin. And as a result, God used a very small army to destroy a very large Judean army. You'd think that because Judah had a lot of soldiers and the Syrian army had little soldiers, Joash would be able to, mathematically at least, conquer the Syrian army because he had more people. But because he had offended God, even the smallest little number of people was enough for God to decimate the forces of Joash and have him killed. So you cannot really run away from what God will do to those who are wicked and who refuse to do his will. If you also read Jeremiah chapter 39 verses 1 to 6, you see that Zedekiah tried to run away from God's punishment, which was personified by the Babylonians, right? God Almighty had considered King Nebuchadnezzar to be his servant in Jeremiah chapter 25 verse 9, chapter 27 verse 6, and chapter 43 verse 10, because it's not because King Nebuchadnezzar was a righteous man, certainly not, but as King Solomon said, God hath made all things for himself, even the wicked for the day of evil. So when Zedekiah and all his people, as a result of their sins, were ripe for punishment, as Jeremiah said, when their sins were written with a pen of iron, if you read Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 1, Zedekiah could not escape. He tried to run away, but then the Chaldeans or the Babylonians caught up with him, and Zedekiah was blinded. But before he was blinded, his sons and everybody was killed before his eyes. Then he was blinded and he was sent to prison, where he died. So it is impossible to escape from the judgment of God. Another important factor is that unlike human beings who can eventually forget things, because we are human, we are weak and so on, in comparison to God, God does not forget anything. He cannot forget things that happen. And if you read the story of the Amalekites, you see that over 400 years after they had ambushed the Israelites and cut off many of the weak and elderly and ones who didn't have a lot of strength, who couldn't run away from the Amalekites. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 to 19, hundreds of years later, when Israel was relatively established, they now had a king and so on, God commanded King Saul to utterly destroy, annihilate, eliminate, exterminate, whatever word you want to use. He wanted the Amalekites gone because he never forgot what they did. So the reason why it is a fearful thing to fall into God's hand is because of the fact that God is almighty. He is the judge of all the earth. If you read Genesis chapter 18, verse 25, and I'll conclude with what Paul had also said in Romans chapter 11, verse 22, where he spoke about how it's a good thing to be good towards the laws of God and so on, to faithfully abide by his commandments, because if you don't, then you will see the other side of God, which I don't want any of us to see. He said, "Behold therefore the goodness and severity of God. Upon them which fell severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou also shalt be cut off." And I think that's where I'm going to stop on breaking down what the book of Hebrews said in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 31, which once again reads, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." If you enjoyed this video and learned something new today, then I would appreciate if you click the like button and also the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when I come back with another video just like this, then you can click the notification bell. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.